Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to begin the discussion about co-parenting. This is what everyone calls it, co-parenting basically, with a narcissist, or basically a toxic person, okay? Now, I'm not going to be able to talk about everything in one video, so that's why I'm saying we're beginning the discussion, okay? Because co-parenting with someone has so many aspects, and then sometimes it could be specialized aspects depending on your particular situation, okay? Because everyone has their own journey to how they became or, ended up in that situation where they are now having to minimally attempt to co-parent with this other person. Okay, so to even get to that point, that person has had some type of relationship with you. Okay, and then chances are that relationship has failed miserably. And now you're in the shoes of raising this child or these children with a person that failed with you. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about in this co-parenting journey is trying and working on separating their fail with you with the potential success with your children. Okay, it's possible, it is possible that the person that was bad for you could do and be better for their child. Because they are two different kinds of relationships. They are two different kinds of relationships, okay? So some people can be a better father than they were technically a spouse per se, or a husband or a girlfriend or a wife. Sometimes they're better in that relationship than they were in their romantic life. Okay, sometimes that does happen. How much better? I can't, but it could be possible that they could be better, but I'm going to just shoot my disclaimer in the beginning. There are instances and times where, if the child's safety, this advice that I'm giving in this video is not to those of you who have safety concerns for your children. Okay, these are to the parents out there that don't necessarily have safety concerns for their children. You don't feel like this narcissist or this toxic person is going to, they're going to be in danger per se when they're with this person. Okay, that's not who I'm giving this advice to. If you feel like your child is going to be in harm's way, this narcissist is going to be physically hurting your child, is not going to be a safe environment, then that's what I'm talking about. Okay? And emotional and verbal abuse does count for a child's safety. Okay? So, it's rough. It's rough because you know how this person treated you. And it's like, well, sometimes it's hard for us to wrap our mind around, well, if the person treated me so bad, how are they then going to be able to treat someone else differently? But it does happen where people can treat other people better. Yes, it does happen where that person could possibly treat their children better. All right, so if you don't feel like your children are going to be in harm's way, we can go ahead and continue on with this video where I can just give you some things to think about, so that perhaps your dealings with this person could be more peaceful and more amicable. Because that I hope would be your overall expectation. Because when you're able to do that, it's only going to benefit the child that is in between the two of you. Okay? It's only going to benefit the child. And that should be your main agenda when it comes to co-parenting, because co-parenting is not about your relationship with that person, because that relationship is over. You're going to have to manifest and create a different kind of relationship. And dealing with people who, have some work to do in them, and we all do, but these toxic people and narcissists, we're going to have to train ourselves to try to approach the situation differently so that we're not continuing to be victimized ourselves, of course, and that we can provide the best atmosphere for your children, because it's already, some things going against you just because of the nature of the person that you are dealing with, okay? So the more that you can do to have yourself in control, to have yourself in the healthiest position, to have your mind in the right direction and the right perception, the better you can create that atmosphere, as I was saying. So yes, what I said a couple of minutes ago about working really hard on separating, the hurt and the bitterness and the anger and the resentment that you could still have in you. Some of you may still have inside of you based off of how poorly and how neglectful, the betrayal, the abuse, the abandonment, whatever brokenheartedness, the fell that happened between you and that person that you now have a child with. Okay? Because they're two separate things. They're two separate things. All right? The relationship failed with you, and now you want it to be as successful as possible with them and the child, because they're going to have their own kind of relationship per se. Okay? So what can you do when you are co-parenting with a toxic person like that, or with, someone that you believe is a narcissist? You can start there, because that way your emotions are not leading. Your emotions about what that person did to you is not overshadowing, is not leading, is not dictating your participation in your approach to being available as someone that could co-parent or try to encourage the most healthy relationship possible between your child and the person that you have to quote unquote co-parent with. Okay? So we're going to get that in check. Okay? Because a lot of times we can be stuck on our story, on our relationship that we had with that person, and it gets in a way with the relationship that the child could have with that person. Okay? And a part of that is going to be us forgiving ourselves, giving us permission to have made a mistake in a certain sense. Like, okay, yeah, I attached myself to a person that didn't serve me and my higher good. This wasn't the relationship that God ordained for me. This relationship, it just only gave us, it gave us the child, and now we have to make the best out of that. And we both, or I love the child at least, I love the child, and I want to give the child the best atmosphere possible. I want to step out of the way. I want to step out of my stuff so that the relationship or the co-parenting part that is dealing with the child, and the other person is just dealing with the child and the other person. So let's just start there, first of all. And sometimes, this is hard because it's fresh, We know how narcissists tend to be. A lot of times they abandon the person in their pregnancy. And now I done went through the whole pregnancy by myself. I done prepared a house and a home for this child. And sometimes that could have been a major struggle. And now this narcissist is popping up. I want to see my child now. And, and we're feeling some kind of way. Hey, where were you when we were setting the table, when we were preparing out of love for this child, when I gave you all these opportunities? Where were you? So those are the unresolved issues inside of us that we have with this person not being what we needed to be at another time, but they're here today offering something, or they're here today seemingly coming in a positive light. They're here today trying to reconnect, but we're still so upset about what didn't happen before that we can't take what's going on now. Or we feel like, oh, you're giving us crumbs. You're giving us crumbs. My advice actually is to take the crumbs. And you guys are going to be like, oh, Lakia, take the crumbs. Are you kidding me? My child deserves the world. And they do. They deserve the best. But what if those crumbs is actually the best that that person has to give? And guess what? If I took a bunch of crumbs and put it together, doesn't the piece get bigger and bigger? Or taking those crumbs could allow the situation to grow into more and more? And that brings me to my next point. A lot of times we make it just about the wallet. We make it just about the money. Perhaps we started a relationship before a child was ever involved with a narcissist or a toxic person that was financially in a bad place. They never were financially strong. And now there's a child. We want that to turn around overnight because, hey, there's another responsibility and you took part of this. You should be doing this. But they were never that to begin with. And maybe they're trying to scrape up something here and there, but because it's not sufficient in your eyes and it's not where it should be, you get in the way of the person actually still building the relationship with the child emotionally and physically because they're financially weak. That's not a good idea. And guess what? It hurts the child. And yes, you're like, well, I'm hurting too. I'm struggling to pay and provide for this child or these children. And this person thinks that they can just ignore this part of the responsibility and just be there presently and physically and just pop in and out when they feel like it. This isn't right and this isn't fair. Successfully co-parenting, or I actually call it parallel parenting. But successfully, we'll just stick with co-parenting because I don't want to throw anybody off per se. But successfully co-parenting with people like this is not always going to be about what's fair. I don't know too many instances in life where things are exactly 50-50 down the line. And you're like, Lakia, come on. We can't compare that to this situation where it's going to be like 99.9 to 0.01. If this other person has been so financially irresponsible that they're not even nowhere close to providing at least half of what the child needs financially. And that resentment is growing inside of you because you have to jump through these hoops. You are working 2 or 3 jobs. You are, I didn't get this week, or making sacrifices and cutting back here. And then you see that person online with a new supply doing this and that, and it's like, oh, you're doing that, but you're not providing for your kid. It gets very messy. It gets very messy, and that's going to draw into my next point. It's going to draw into my next point, but I want you guys to not make it all about money, because then the child will be robbed of other things that children need along with the financial, which is the emotional and the physical presence. When you think about your childhood, are you thinking about the things that you were provided for? Or are you thinking about the parent being at your recital, spending time, being around? What most people are thinking about the latter things and not the monetary things. And we all know that it takes money. Children have to eat every day. They need clothes. They need shelter. We all know that. We all know that. But they also need that emotional and psychological. Now, how good will the narcissist be at providing that to the child? Whew. That's where things start to get sticky and layered, of course, because we all know that the narcissists have their battles on the inside with being able to truly love, someone. But, it depends on how you have it set up. Maybe every time the narcissist is with the child, you're with them as well. You're there, you're monitoring it, you're seeing it. The child is getting to be around that parent, the father, the mother, and you guys are doing activities together. That's not going to hurt the child. That's not going to hurt the child. And then some of you are like, okay, well, he's taking the child out of my view. I can't see where they're going. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Or if the children are coming back and saying this and saying that. For those of you that the children are going away and you're not sure how to feel about it because you're like, well, this person is a narcissist. Aren't they inevitably going to damage the child in X, Y, and Z? No, it's not an inevitable damage. It's not. If you feel like, and I made that disclosure in the beginning of the video, that they're going to be in a crack house somewhere, that, something is very unsafe, then that's another issue. Okay. But if it's, oh, I don't want my child to be around the narcissist's new girlfriend or man, or if it's things like that and it's not the child's safety per se, then those are other sets of issues, guys. Because once that person is not with us, it's none of our business unless we feel like it's a safety issue. Now, I do believe, if your child is going to be around someone else, you should know who that person is. You should know. If this person, if they are getting serious with someone, it is fair to know who that person is. But getting all into their business, we have to mind our business, And that's why I tell you guys to gray rock with the narcissist, and I do it myself. They start bringing up conversations that are outside of the realm of our children or what I need to know or should know in regards to whatever would pertain only to our children. I don't say anything back. I give the silence, or I'll just say, hey, that's not my concern, or hey, that's none of my business. And I stay out of that. Okay? So a lot of you are concerned about, what if they're going to, show my child how to be this way, how to be that way. And I don't want to, you have to be the example. You have to be that super example of what's acceptable and what's not. You have to demonstrate that for your kids. Okay? But if you're stuck in your hurt and your pain, that's what you're going to be demonstrating to them. Okay? If you can't put them first, that's what you're going to be demonstrating to them. If you're only stuck on who the narcissist or the toxic person is in the bed with now, that's what you're going to be demonstrating. Oh, mom or dad is only concerned with that. They're not talking about what I want. I wanted to see my mom. I wanted to see my dad. But they were mad because they were with someone else, or they were mad because that's what you're demonstrating to your child. So Another thing that I'm going to point out here, and particularly to the absent fathers, the betrayal that the father had with you and his absence doesn't always equal that he doesn't care about the children at all. Okay? Because, the typical dad wants to provide, nurture, and guide their child. So if they're weak in one of those areas, it might make them back away. It might make them not be so much in the forefront because they're feeling inadequate. And we all know narcissists have that typical fear of intimacy as well. And of course, that would create hot and cold, or a lot of cold and lukewarm interactions. So the more that we are educating ourselves on these type of things, we can change the way that we're interacting. Okay? So if you feel like, if the person is jobless, that could be sitting on their mind. I don't want to come around because I can't provide. If I come around, she's just going to talk about money and she's going to nag me about that. Or, people might not come around. I can't deal with the responsibilities. I don't want to feel shamed and guilt, something that is deep rooted in the narcissist and toxic people a lot of times. So we have to then learn how to say the hard things in a soft way. If you know what it is, you can't get blood from the turnip, right? So complaining about the person not being able to provide something they don't have, is not going to make it come to be. But trying to be encouraging and doing the best you can to cover the tabs in the meanwhile, you never know what that could bring into your life. Okay? And I know you're probably like, I don't owe this narcissist anything, da-da-da-da-da. But what do you owe your child? What do you owe your child? No child wants to feel motherless or fatherless. We all have that void inside of us that we want to be filled with our parents as children. So whatever you can do to nurture that in the most healthiest aspect, I want to advise you to do that. Okay? I want to advise you to do that. So do what you can as well to clean up what the relationship you had with that person. And that doesn't always have to involve the other person, because we know a lot of times that narcissists don't want to take accountability. They don't want to accept responsibilities a lot of time. So clean it up within yourself, even if that is something that you're just doing on yourself, doing your shadow work, so that you can release some of that toxicity, some of that hurt and pain, so that you can, make sure that's not overshadowing what's between the child and that parent, okay? And how he's living his life and what he's doing, we're going to mind our business unless we feel like it's a safety issue to the child. And we're not making it about money. We're going to allow them to see the child, even if they're not providing financially, because like we said, there are other things that a child needs, and actually those things a child cares about more. I mean, we as adults, because we're not so emotionally attached to this person anymore, if at all, we care about the money because we know the bigger picture. That children, they're not paying the bills. They just know the food is there every day. The light turns on and the water is running. They just know they have that car to get from A to B. And that's all they need to know. They don't need to be burdened with the financial aspects. They need to be able to just be children. But they are going to know, hey, my father never talks to me, or my mother, I never get to see my mother. This is what they know. So if you can put yourself in the child's shoes and think about it, and as hurtful as it has been, and trust me, I know about that hurt, severe, deep rooted hurts that can occur in the relationship that you had. But I also know how to get out of my feelings and get out of my emotions and do what I believe is best for my children. My first narcissist that I actually married and I have 4 children with, he's very much in the background. We get money from him every week and that's it. He's physically and emotionally and psychologically unavailable to his children. And it has been this way for most of our divorce. I do believe that he is battling and struggling with a lot of things. And, you know, I don't agree with it. But I see the effects that it has on my children, and they do miss their father. I've seen them cry about this. I've seen the hurt, you know, and then they just go into an autopilot where they just accept it. But I know inside of them, they would love to have that relationship with their father. So what will happen if he calls me today, it's a Sunday, and say, hey, I would love to have Sunday dinner with my children. Would I then curse him out and yell at him for all the years post our divorce? Because it's coming up on 7 years now. And the years in a row that we've reached out to him and has gotten no response, and say, hey, how you think you're just going to come have dinner with them tonight after all of that? I could do that. I could. But is there something better that I could do in that moment that would foster a situation that would make my kids happier, rather than push the distance and close an opportunity to rekindle with their father? If I don't feel like there's a safety issue, I just feel like, you know, we got discarded, you know, that he emotionally detached completely, everything that had to do with me. That's what I feel. So when he comes back and he wants to have that dinner, would I let him have that dinner? Yes. I would just say, okay, how do you want to do this? What time were you thinking? Blah, blah, blah. And set up the arrangements. You know, I'm okay with it. I will let the kids know, you know, and see where they're at with this, you know. And if the kids wanted to do this, yes, I would do that without bringing up what has already occurred. You know, that is the difference between putting the children first and not. And some of you might be, well, you know what? I don't want this person to be able to just come in and out. Every time they leave, my kids have to pick up the pieces. This is a concern for me. Well, it depends on how old your children are. You know, if you chances are you probably already had those conversations with them, but you can bring it up. Be like, you know, I really want you to spend time with them on a regular basis. I would love to do everything that I can to make that happen. You know, just let me know. But you have to take a chance in that case, and they will still appreciate that memory. They will still appreciate that memory. And some people will say, few memories, no memories are better than few. I disagree with that. You can't miss something you never had. I disagree with that. As someone who's never met their mother or father, they miss it. They yearn for it. All right. It's not always so black and white. When we make it black and white, we will block and get in the way of opportunities, guys. Just, you know, we have to accept people for who they are and just change ourselves in the way that we approach a situation. And like I said, keeping in mind our children's safety first and foremost. So I wanted to start this conversation, and people are going to have different opinions about the things that I have suggested in this video. But to me, I'm looking at the ultimate bigger picture, and it's not always so black and white. It's not always so black and white. If that narcissist or toxic person that hasn't provided anything for your children out of the blue say, hey, I'm going to give you all these things now. Are you going to turn it away because they weren't doing it? I say, oh, we don't need nothing from you. We've been doing it this time. No, just take the stuff. If anything, yes, that person was technically in the negative because they hadn't been providing anything. Your child deserves everything that they can get from both parents that will benefit them in a positive light. It doesn't matter, well, I don't think this person is really giving this to me for a pure reason. I think something else is behind it. And, well, they can only do what you let them do after that. If you think that's just them trying to break no contact, to manipulate you, or they can't manipulate you if you don't let them. You can take this stuff and let that be that. Them getting all the way back in your life or pressing your boundaries and this and that, that is up to you. And there are ways that you could even set that up. If you guys, can you drop it off at your mother's house, or can you, your sister, or over my sister's, or if you are, okay, well, he's going to be over your aunt's house on this, can you drop it off there? And there's ways that you can do it. You can even set up a whole P.O. box. Can you mail it there? So, there's so many ways that you can do things that doesn't cross your boundaries. But the whole thing is to try to always put the child first. That is the ultimate goal, guys. All right. So I hope that this part 1 of the conversation has helped someone and giving someone something to think about, because it's rough. It's rough when a person has treated you very poorly, and I mean very poorly, to then turn around, and step outside of that. That's why the healing will take you so far. We have to heal ourselves. And it's like, okay, I'm not healed and I still have to deal with it. Okay, but you're aware of that. You're aware of that. And sometimes we don't get to heal first and then deal with that toxic person while we're trying to co-parent. Sometimes we have to juggle them both at the same time. But I'm glad that you came to a channel like mine so I can help give you that guidance. And there's lots of resources out there. And if you want one-on-one coaching from me, I do offer it, guys. Okay, I do phone coaching, I do email, and I do Skype. Invest in yourself. It will only trickle down to your children. And it will make your personal relationships better and the interactions. All right, guys. So until next time, guys, take care. And I will be, putting up additional videos on this topic because a lot of people have questions about this. A lot of people have questions about it. All right, take care.